because I was a bit more effeminate. Guys in school made fun of me and called me names like sissy, aqua and gay. All these teasing just made me feel really unaccepted, unwanted and unworthy. I entered my first same-sex relationship when I was in poly. I later broke off the relationship because of other unrelated issues. And it was then I started going to church because I was going through a tough time.
When I first went to church, I got stared at because it was quite obvious I wasn't straight. I felt angsty, but I came here to talk to God and not them, so I just put that aside.
Later, when I started attending a cell group, I told my cell leader about my sexuality, and surprisingly, she didn't react like how I thought the stereotypical Christian would. She said not to worry about it and just focus on my relationship with God and get to know more about Him first as a new believer. And that was when my perspective of Christians started to change.
Right now, I'm still more attracted to females, but I have decided not to take any action regarding my attraction to girls. I have also accepted the fact that I may stay single forever due to my sexual orientation.
Wow, amazing. I love the decision to just yeah, I'm attracted, but I'm just not going to do anything about it. It's actually very, very empowering, and I feel like it's like this is what it looks like to really overcome, you know? It's not like it's gone, but you just know what you're going to do about it.
I think this person overall is really remarkable because she faces stigma from both sides. I think in the church, people may disapprove of her sin, and yet she still, finds time to seek and grow in a relationship with God. And the other side is, the people who may encourage her homosexuality. They may say that you're denying yourself, but that's exactly what God calls us to do, right? To deny ourselves and follow Christ. So I think this person is a really heartening case, even to a person like me who doesn't experience those feelings.
I'm quite impressed by is it a leader? Because sometimes when a person comes with their baggages, the first thing, if we will start talking about, you need to stop doing this, stop doing that, then you can be a Christian. The truth is that many of us are actually, who are Christians, may not have visible kind of habits or behaviors, but actually all of us are still in the path of sanctification. So in the same way, I feel that be it a person who are struggling in same-sex attraction, people who are still processing, going through this journey, all of us should receive one another. What matters is that all of us have a desire to follow God's design. Let's help each other in this journey, not to expect each other to already arrive to the end point before we can accept one another, and that would be wrong.
Because I was a bit more effeminate, guys in school made fun of me and called me names like sissy, aqua and gay. All these teasing just made me feel really unaccepted, unwanted and unworthy.
I kept praying to God to take away my unwanted same-sex attraction and help me be straight, just like everyone else. If only I was straight, then would I be truly loved, accepted and wanted. Prayers after prayers, my sexuality remained the same.
Yet it was through these prayers that I drew near to God. I learned more about His heart and that He loves me unconditionally, regardless of my attraction. Along with that understanding, God also encouraged me to share about my sexuality to my mentor. And after several years, I finally plucked up enough courage to do so.
To my surprise, he responded with much love and empathy. He also shared about his personal struggles in the areas of sexual purity and addiction, which made me realize that I was not the only imperfect person in church who was struggling.
He assured me that he would journey with me through and figure things with me and join me to discover God's will and call in my life. Wow.
The part of the story that stood out most to me is where he shared that he could finally open up. I'm so glad that he could find the courage, and after finding the courage, find the comfort in God. That he could finally face this problem not by himself, but with God and with the people around him.
I'm so glad that that he opened up, but I'm even more glad that the person meeting him, didn't just push him away and humbled himself also to share and be vulnerable and walk him through, because I think that's really sorely missing in church. And I actually wish that I had that. You know, I really felt like if I did, it would have made my opening up and whole journey a lot less painful.
I think that we are still afraid of being vulnerable. I think that there are leaders or mentors who actually confuse the understanding of what it means to being an exemplary. Thinking that being exemplary means that you must be without sin, or you must be seen as everything doing right, having all the answers, but it's not true. And for you be able to share your brokenness to those that you're mentoring, all this really make a lot of difference. It helps people see not just victory per se, but redemption. From brokenness, how God redeems us. Even in our failures, how God redeems us. And that is very important story, part of the gospel that we need to actually exhibit in our life.
We are all in the same place. We are all in the place of the woman who had 5 husbands, and Jesus forgave her, and how she rejoiced afterwards. So I think we all have to be like that. Start from a place of humility and recognize your sin, and don't see the person different from you.
When I was 16, I caught up with a childhood friend who identified as a butch. We got closer and subsequently expressed our romantic feelings for each other.
The church eventually found out about my relationship when one of my youth leaders bumped into my girlfriend and I holding hands. Rather than having reactions, I got non-reactions. We didn't acknowledge each other and just walked past each other in silence.
But when I got home, I realized that my parents had already found out about my relationship, but I felt very hurt by what the youth leader did in response to seeing me with my girlfriend.
I soon left church and only came back to God on my own accord years after that. Looking back, I was young and impressionable, and I mistook my admiration as romantic attraction because it was very normal in my school culture.
I believe that the issue of my sexuality wasn't addressed to me directly because people didn't know what to say and they didn't want to offend me.
But if we as the church don't speak up on these matters, others will. As the body of Christ, we should learn to feed, nourish and care for each part in such a way that all of us can mature and make godly decisions for our lives.
I just felt that I could understand that if I'm a youth leader and I saw this happen and I'm not trained, I'm not exposed to what is going on, my first thing is I don't know how to give a reaction. So you wonder whether by smiling you're affirming, or by giving a fierce look you are actually giving a very hostile reaction. But I'm just wondering, perhaps he or she should have actually connected with the person and to find out more about the friendship, the relationship, to clarify things and be able to help this person understand what she mentioned later on, that is actually admiration rather than romantic relationship.
The part about the leader ignoring, I think it's very common, even in my own experiences where people face issues and they try to go about it in their own way, in a quiet, discreet way, or whatever ways they think best. And the reason why people tend to avoid facing these issues head on is because sometimes people think that to love someone means to go about it in a roundabout way. I think that's not true. To love someone is to see them and speak to them honestly and truthfully because you love them. You know, that's exactly what God does to us. You know, and I just pray that more people will be willing to step out of their comfort zone and go and be equipped to deal with such questions.
I think I'm someone who, even though the truth hurts, it's difficult to talk about, but I believe it's very important because if people didn't speak the truth to me, like I wouldn't be able to know my blind spots. I wouldn't even be able to know that I've hurt them or that I did something wrong in the eyes of God and just continue my life in a reckless manner. I agree with what she said. If people would talk about it and people would have a safe space to be open and to have open conversations, I think there will be a lot more growth and a lot less shame. Whether it is same-sex attraction or whether it is addiction and whatever struggles we may have.
I'm really heartened to see that even those who have suffered by the hands of the church, right, are the ones actually saying, hey, we need to come together and we need to fix this. Many of our stories where we left the church because we felt the church was like hurting us, but God has never been apart from us even though we left the church, as in like just the organization. And I love that all the people of these stories like through everything and they came and they saw and now they're like back to say, hey, we need to do better as a church. Like, I really feel super encouraged, you know, that we're not alone in this as well.
I felt someone touch me below my dress. I was really stunned and looked up, only to notice a man grinning. The other man made eye contact with him and sniggered.
It felt like just another game they had won, in some form of power play, where the women are left helpless.
It's very saddening to see these are things that like my female friends have to put up with as well.